Hello and welcome to the Oasis 13. It's your host, Minnie Money. Okay, I changed my name. All right, I don't need y'all to know who I is. So it's Minnie Money from now on. How y'all doing? Hello. Okay. And today I have a special guest by the name of Star. Hey Star.
Hey.
And Star is gonna come or she's up here to talk about astrology. And yeah, we're gonna get like deep into it of like some people's misconceptions or misunderstanding. And as deep as we can get in about an hour or so, because there's only so deep that you can get. So this is just probably gonna break the ice for you. And if you're interested, Star will probably tell you um more ways at the end that you can delve deeper into it. Um but anyway, so how I want to get started is Star, tell us about yourself first of all, and then also how you got into astrology and like why.
So I'm Star. I'm 26, 27 October. Um, I feel like I'm a mixture of things as far as personality wise goes. So therefore I do many different things, but most primarily I consider myself to be more of a writer, more of somebody who focuses on, interpersonal things and
Mm-hmm.
teaching and learning. Hence I have background in childcare, which is how me and her met.
Yeah.
Working with the kiddos, man. And I'm interested in life in general, so
Right.
tends to fall into a lot of different categories, including astrology.
Mm-hmm.
So especially when I was younger, I mean, I think anybody's first kind of basis or kind of glimpse of what it even could be about or whatever it has comes down to like, oh, what's my compatibility with this
Right.
person stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was younger, my sister, she never even looked at it, but I had
Mm-hmm.
found this book she had of um basically like compatibility between zodiac signs and stuff like that. It was
Mm-hmm.
really like, it was meant to be like a really short cute book or whatever.
Right.
um so it was vague, and that's what kind of I always look at that reference point as like what got me started, because it was such a short book, and I was just like, well, how does that have any, relevance? Like, what does that really mean? Where does this info come from,
Right.
basically? But I didn't start really going through all of that, like wanted to know more about little different shit about it, like until I was older. But
Mm-hmm.
when I was younger, that was the thing, like just like how does this interplay with how people actually get along with each other and stuff
Right.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So just like everything else, basically, astrology, I think, can get a bad rep people, because it has been infiltrated and like it's become like a cool thing to do. And
Mm-hmm.
it's, like they have so many apps or like, you can sign up for whatever and then they'll send you like daily messages. Hey, this might happen today, you might
Right,
expect this today, right? And it's like, what information is this actually based on? Because how many of all of these signs are there in the world, right? So like, how
right,
can you really tell me just because I'm this one particular sign that this might happen, you know?
right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's very
So
so.
go ahead.
Nope, you go ahead. I was just piggybacking off of that curiosity is like, okay, what? Like, where do you start,
Yeah.
basically?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
where do you start? And how do you not like get lost in
Oh,
the like fakeness, the fake part of it?
I'd say that's generally a hard task, especially these days, more so
Mhm.
these days, and in our culture particularly, um, and being in a Western culture, because it's so hard because of how fanatic it's become.
Mhm.
and just how much information you can find and information that shit I'm finding there's like new information that I
Mhm.
had no idea about, like whatever,
Right.
concerning it or whatever. But I think where you can kind of start to where you can help guide yourself as far as learning more about it and where to start is
Mm.
knowing like what's what, basically, like what is the actual definition, literally the actual definition of astrology itself. Let's start there.
Mhm.
Because it's different from what I think most people who tend to be more skeptic about it,
Mhm.
naturally, it's a different definition than astronomy. That's one thing. When you start there, you can kind of filter out like what might be plausible and what's not, honestly, truly, and start to, form your own like connections on how this meaning or interpretation
Mhm.
even came about based off of that. Because there is a
Mhm.
difference in astrology, which is, um, it aims to it aims to put what I would say provide a language for
Mhm.
what astronomy discovers. So
Mm.
astronomy is actually like picking, like doing all the math behind the stars and everything like that.
Mhm.
Whereas astrology gives you a basis, or basically a bunch of information on how that math is relevant to what you might be going through or what's happening like on the planet or at this time or whatever.
Mm.
So if you can really remember it when you're looking up anything astrology wise, is that there's a difference in the basis versus the interpretation, then
Mhm.
that alone, I think will weed out a lot of the fugazi shit, honestly, because it's a lot. It's a lot.
It
People are like, you
is.
think I had to start preaching to my people's like, look, don't ask me nothing. Like, I don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, it's so sad for the people, like yourself who are like actually into it, like for real, and not just because it's cool right now. So
Right.
yeah, so let's talk about the video that I asked you to watch. So
Yeah.
because I think they bring up a lot of good points of like how some people actually feel about it. So I told her to watch a video by Abba and Preach. Now, if y'all watch me, I like watching their channel because I just think they have they bring a good perspective to a lot of topics. And they were
And
talking
that was my first time hearing about them too. So I was,
yeah, that was your first time
mhm.
listening to them or whatever.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah. So
I was intrigued.
okay, so let me tell y'all the video that we talking about. So they were talking about astrology, and usually they react to other videos. So they had brought up a video of some old white man, and there was a whole bunch of people standing in the back of him, and he was supposed to be able to tell them their sign based off of like how they look, or like he'll ask them certain characteristics like do you feel like you're a leader? You're a Leo. That is so typical. Like what? Like what? Like for real? And so they were they were like, obviously their viewpoint was already like, oh, astrology is bull, like I don't believe in astrology, and they used that video to validate their point. But that is not astrology. That is like that's the flugazi stuff that we talking about. Like
Heck yes, that was a prime example of it. Yay.
please tell me how you felt about that video.
Man, I was I, I was tickled, also like irritated at the same time. I was like, oh come on. Like, okay. At first I was just, oh, they got the jokes, here we go.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then when they showed the video that they were about to be talking about, I was like, Lord, because I've seen that video float around before. So I was
Oh,
Like,
goodness.
no. Don't tell me this is the only piece of evidence y'all found. Y'all gonna
Right,
take this and run with it, like you said.
right.
It was funny, but as I was watching like the older man, like while he was talking and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm sure in different parts, like in different like interpretive systems, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying, that what he's saying may have other basis, but you can't just take those things
Yeah.
and say that, it is something that astrology
Right,
causes or is symptom of or whatever.
right.
Like, I'm sure there's probably other systems and other cultures and other shit, you know what I'm saying, that might have better explanations than what he was trying to do or
Mhm,
how he was trying to do it. Either
mhm.
way, though, I don't know, they probably would laugh at his ass too. 'Cause I was just like, I mean, they chose a good video to prove their point, that's for sure.
They did. But you know what? A good point that they brought up is so, like, how, like you said, compatibility, like that's why you were initially
Right.
interested into it. And so, a good point that they brought up, and, like we as women, we do this. We're like, when we get to know a guy, we like, what's your sign? You know? And if he like not compatible with us, we already like, oh my God, he gonna be difficult. I just can't even mess with a dude who is this sign, you know what I mean?
I ain't
So
gonna lie. There's been a few times where I'm like, oh shit. But I was right though. I don't know if that was intuition or not.
I mean, it's a two-sided sword because
Yeah.
it do be kind of messed up that you automatically judge somebody based off their
Hmm.
sign. And also, we're gonna get into, sun sign, moon sign, rising sign, all of the planets, whatever. That also has something to do with
Hmm.
it. It's not just your sun sign, but um, it's kind of messed up that we automatically judge without even getting to know the person. But
Hmm.
like it's a part of, it's just numbers. Like honestly, it just helps us understand ourselves. So it's
Thank you.
true.
That's what I be trying to tell people. Like, really, this is all just it's all based on like archetypal information. So, and we use archetypes in so many things, especially when it comes down to shit like psychology. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, we use so many models or representations of things that are show reoccurrence that
Right.
that's just our nature. That is what helps us better understand and thus make more connection to what we experience in our environments and with each other. That's just how
Mhm.
we've always been.
Right.
That, like, it doesn't matter even what culture, that's just how we've always been. And I think
Mhm.
that's where people get the whole like, oh, you can't predict anything with the astrology stuff comes from too, because I don't want to say it discredits astrology in that sense, but it discredits us
Mhm.
as like intelligent, people, and just intelligence in general.
Yeah.
When you really think about it, because it's like, I mean, we have to get along in some way. That's where I started to appreciate it. And I still have like certain things where I'm like, I would have to definitely dig more myself into that to see how it, rules all down. But
Mhm.
so many other things has just been like, this is information that allows us to get a better understanding. Like
Right.
at the end of the day, it's not all presumptuous shit. That's when you're in the wrong area.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You're in the wrong area.
Yeah. When it goes too far into like, oh, this person is going to be like this, is what you're saying?
Yeah, in a sense, yes. Now granted, I'm not that high level of what most people would probably consider high level when it comes to like being a child. Like, I didn't go for it as my major in college or anything like that, but
Mhm.
that's what generally anything though. It's one of been the things that I've observed, like subject matter wise, for the longest though. I
Mhm.
can say that. And but when you even go to those people, whatever, like they might be able to give you a more in-depth language,
Mhm.
as far as the definitive what's definitive and what's not when it
Right.
comes down to that, because they are looking really especially at what astronomers do, which is the math, the degrees, and
Mm,
stuff like that. That's where people like,
right.
how do you even
How did you come
like
up with
get
that?
that out of that
Yeah. Yeah.
based off of like, oh my, have a rising and da 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 da. Like,
Right.
yeah, that's where I can understand it loses a lot of people
Mhm.
because it's like, why would it even be that much?
Yeah.
Why should it even
Yeah.
entail all that?
Yeah.
Like,
And
it's a
but
rare thing for.
yeah. Another good point that they brought up is, which I've heard before too, but I wasn't willing to accept because I did get so like caught up in like, oh, I'm a Taurus. I know I'm a Taurus. I act like a Taurus, blah blah blah. But I had heard it come out one time like something about like some type of planet shifted, so everybody's sign went up one. So if you thought
Mm,
you were this sign, you're actually this
yeah,
sign now.
good
And
old feet.
what is up with that?
The thing is, there's always been an Ophiuchus. That's the thing. It's just
What's in the
I'm
Finkus?
Ophi Op is Ophiu. Wait, Ophi, yeah, no, oh geez, no, Iucus. I had to get it right. I might not still have had it right. I'm a little slow, but Ophiuchus, or more easily pronounced in English, Serpentarius is another name for it as well.
Okay.
Um, has always been kind of at a weird juxtaposition between Libra and Scorpio constellation. But the fact that it's being more accounted for now, I think really I pinpoint that down to just the fact that people are trying to really in those that one sector of people trying to integrate
Mhm.
um how we move through our solar system
Mhm.
into the actual astrology, which would then be more correct in a sense, because like I said, it's always been there. But the
Mhm.
fact that there's so many things coming out in science and astronomy now that point to like things that we haven't seen as far as physics goes happening and stuff like that,
Mhm.
or have it in a long ass time at least.
Mhm.
Um, I think because of stuff like that becoming more apparent, observable, and just accessible to people,
Mhm.
like in a sense, those broadcasts and publications that focus on astrology and astronomy were like, all right, like, guess what?
You're not the sign that you thought you was.
Right, exactly. Like we gotta tell them.
Cause literally, like we said, like people live their lives, like which is where it can get unhealthy, like
Uh-huh.
cause people
Yes.
live their lives off of what the sign says that they're supposed to be like or that they're supposed to happen today. Have you ever gotten to that point where it's like you've based too much into what it says that your sign is?
Mm. Arguably so, yeah. I think when just by me being a fallible human like everybody else, like
Mhm.
having those moments where, especially when I first was like getting into like the more intricacies of like natal chart systems and all that stuff,
Mhm.
um is when I was like super like, oh shit, like, oh, there's so much here, like this
Yeah.
is so true, oh my
Right.
god. But really what it was the shock value of how um applicable it
Mhm.
was.
Mhm.
Because even with astrology and any true astrologer, whether they giving you readings or they just study whatever, will tell
Mhm.
you like none of it is necessarily definite because we are an ever evolving, like in an ever evolving reality, we are always changing.
Right.
So therefore, nothing is ever going to be that definite. However, here's like a general set
Right, like
of
a
rules or just
template. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
why I say the word archetype, like it's all based off archetype because you're just talking about like a silhouette of something, the frame of something, the
Right.
framework. There's so many different ways you can mold things like
Mhm.
around. Like say if you're building a sculpture and you got clay and some wood,
Mhm.
like that information could just be the frame for the wood, but you can mold that clay into so many different shapes and shit like that. And so you get
Mhm.
a lot of different interpretations.
Mhm.
But I digress though so much. um, is it is I want to get back to my main point, which I feel like pour me some more apple juice. I'm sorry. Oh, it gets me through everything. I swear. There's no alcohol in this cup, by the way, just so everybody
Girl,
knows.
do you?
I'm an apple
It
juice fiend.
is it is Cinco de Mayo. I was like, "Dang, I feel bad." I done told her to come up here on Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, girl, boo. Oh, please. Oh man. If anything, shoot, I wish I would have thought of it sooner. I would have looked up like what type of planetary alignments were going on for Cinco de Mayo at the time that it happened. That would have been
I feel like it's a very strong energy right now. Cause what is today?
yeah.
It's 555, right? It adds up to whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what that means, but I know people are saying that it's a very, powerful spiritual day. And I did what is crazy. So, and this is things that like can't be explained. So, Ben, right? So me and her used to work together and I have a co-tutor who I work with called named Ben. And we hopped on our tutor session today this morning. And I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning
Oh wow.
on 555. And then I was like, "Oh my goodness." I woke up and I don't know why. He was like, "Me too at 5 a.m." And I was like, "What? How? How did that work?" Like, you
See,
know,
that's funny.
right?
That's funny. See, that's where the what I was saying earlier comes into play a little bit, which is kind of like maybe like a side pocket or side realization when you do look
Mhm.
into astrology and stuff. It's like there are other systems um that are also based off of the stars, but some more loosely. Some of the archetypes, like some systems have way more than 12, 13
Yeah.
signs. Like
Yeah.
some don't even have that many, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So
Right,
the
because the Chinese
numbers,
use the what? It's a Chinese calendar, so I'm a pig. Oh, I can't see you.
I don't know why. See, this is why I need to get rid of this one. Okay. Um, yeah, they use mostly they actually have what's called the I Ching, and they use one second, let me plug
Mhm.
this bad boy in. They also use um animals,
Mhm. Mhm.
but in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the zodiac is typically based off of what was understood culturally or referenced culturally in those time periods as animalistic or in between or um demigodly type of beings.
Mhm.
Those where
Mhm.
the general Western astrology archetypes come from.
Mhm.
But yeah, uh, the Chinese, they use I Ching and animals. There's also trying to get the name right, the Zolkin calendar or astrology, which is more based in Aztec cultures. They have they also use animals too, but they also incorporate colors and
Mhm.
shapes. So when you think about all the things that we learn in order to be able to like basically the first few things you learn as a kid, like alphabet, your numbers, your
Mhm.
shapes, your
Mhm.
colors, all those, then the animals, all those things is kind of what astrology amalgamates, like, it just puts all of that
Right.
together in a sense. So even numbers, like
Mhm.
the 5 thing, 5, um, which I've also studied different
Mhm.
systems, like, not as deeply, but just enough to know, like, where they kinda intersect.
Mhm.
And the 5, you could say, is one of those energies that's super dynamic no matter what system you're looking at. It is one of those kind of groundbreaker type of energies,
Mhm.
as the kids say,
Mhm.
groundbreaker vibes, catalytic in a sense.
Mhm.
Something is action, it's directness and everything. It's
Mhm.
expansion and stuff. um
Mhm.
Even if you look at our numerical alphabet, I believe the letter E is the 5th letter,
Mhm.
which if you break down all the like different adjectives of E, like expressive or um even down to like exturative or exploration, all these things kind of describe what 5
Mhm.
represents.
Mhm.
So I guess today would be a great day to look at any major changes or um where things are kind of pivoting at,
Mhm.
taking off, in a sense, catching speed.
Mhm.
All that has to do surmountably with the 5. It's very
Mhm.
strong dominant type of vibe.
Mhm.
uh, and let's see, the 5th sign, depending on if you're in 12 word, if you're looking at the 12 signs or the
Mhm.
13 signs. um let's see, the 5th sign would be Leo, I believe. Yes, either Leo or Cancer, which is like, I mean, Leo's the center of
Right.
things, so that would make sense. Leo is kind of akin to the sun. But we know the sun to be bright. It's there.
Mhm.
It never
Mhm.
goes away. It's so hot sometimes. Sometimes you can't even see it. Type
Right.
shit. All that you can like that. Back
Mhm.
to the 5.
Right.
Lots of fire.
It just
Lots
all
of that.
relates.
Yes.
Mhm.
Radiation. All that shit.
Mhm.
But it's very nuanced. So those were just a few little examples. As I go
Mhm.
through my own little wheel sometimes, give my own horoscopes. Like, so today is, what's today's day? Okay, so usually for me, you
Mhm.
know, certain numbers and things means different things to people too. Like
Right.
that's another reason why I get the whole, how can you even
Right.
like,
Because people interpret it differently.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If everything is subjective, then how can this have any basis at all? Like,
Yeah.
so's the world, homie. I mean, dang.
Right. It's like whatever you wanna believe, that's what you believe. Like, if you feel like that relates to you, then it do it, and if it don't, then it don't. I mean, what you want?
Exactly. I think I literally wrote that down too. Like, it is as applicable as you give your will to.
Mhm.
Like, that's anything that you study. Like, you are most successful and progressive in the areas of life that you actually start to really digest and apply
Mhm.
the relevant information, right? So this is no
Mhm.
different. It's really no different. It's not
Right.
a belief system.
Right.
It's nothing to believe in
Right.
when it comes down to it. Honestly, that's another
Right.
thing. It's really nothing to believe in. It's just there.
Right. Either you it's gonna be there whether you believe in it or not. So
Right? Yeah. Like, you can't tell me you don't go outside and see all these things in the sky.
right.
You gonna say you don't see that, and I see that. I know you see that.
Right.
Okay. Like, okay. All right then.
And, it's something to note that, like, really successful people always not always, but usually have astrologers, numerologists,
Yes.
readers. They because they once they once they get to that point, they know that it's just a tool to help you understand things better.
Yep.
Like, that's it.
And that's really how they get to be where they are because they diversify their understanding.
Mhm.
So then that it allows them to accept certain facets of life, better. I'm sure
Mhm.
not always,
Right.
depending on what their astrology is.
Right.
They might not be always be that understanding, but I mean, they're generally most ambitious people in life and throughout our history have been known to hell. Even one of the goddamn presidents of the United States was
Mhm.
known for the shit.
Mhm.
Right? And was known to have a predictive astrologer for when to do what
Mhm.
and how that boils down to the policies that we even have as a fucking so-called country at this point. Like all of that shit has an effect when you realize we are the creators of our environments. We cause these imprints ourselves, what we agree to collectively and everything. This
Mhm.
is what causes the impact.
Mhm.
So why wouldn't, what I'm saying, it be applicable in some way at some point? Like if there's enough willpower behind a thought or piece
Right.
of information,
Right.
then that's what makes it more of a thing. That's just like
Mhm.
people making up slang and words and shit. Like, if somebody else, if you say something out of your mouth and somebody's like, yo, that's funny, or yo, that sounds tight, like they'll start to say it, then somebody else around them start saying it. That's
Right.
just how
They
things get
go.
power. Like
Mhm.
that's the way of the world in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about how you can get deeper into astrology because we talked about it a little bit, but when most
Mhm.
people figure out about it, they know about their sun sign. So what how can you get deeper than the sun sign? What else is there?
Basically you go and reference what is called your natal chart.
Mhm.
Natal chart is basically it's like a map wheel of configured angles, and those configurations are based off of where in the sky in relativity to where the earth is. Now this is a debatable point that I'm insert real quick, whether or not
Mhm.
those points are from the perspective of where exactly you were physically or
Mm.
where the earth, like the planet itself, was. You know what I'm
Oh.
saying?
Yeah.
um and I feel I can understand how that could be tricky because I think even one of the guys brought it up in the Abba and Preach video as well. Like I have to know based off of like the time
Yeah.
and where I was born and what
Yeah.
time I was born. This is
Yeah.
it. You mean to tell me that's what this is?
Right.
My life is who I am. So that's a very
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm just throw that out there because that's just something I feel like that becomes up to individual um stuff,
Interpretation. Yeah.
right? um but typically though most people base it off of the exact longitude and latitude
Mhm.
of where you were
Mhm.
on the earth in relativity to where you were on the earth in relativity to where the earth was to the rest of all these big ass things floating around. So in little things. But you look at your natal chart and you see not only where the earth or you were,
Mhm.
which is represented by the sun because that's the closest object to us. So
Mhm.
it's more so based in that. I would think it would be very interesting to see astrology based in the earth as its own, orbital thing versus us in relativity to the sun and
Mhm.
being so close. That would be probably more accurate. But that's where your sun sign comes from. And then you look at where the moon was based off of the zodiac wheel. That tells you a whole different part of your psyche and everything like that.
Mhm.
Um, we can go into that as well. What each of those mean.
Yeah, tell us what the sun, moon, and rising mean?
So the sun, astrologically speaking, is represented by your most centered mode of being, like the you that is part of who you are, like your most basic setting, basically.
Mhm.
Um, from the time you were born to when you die, basically. That is that part of you that is the slower evolving, more progressive. That's your ego, you know what I'm saying? What is not going to change no matter what other planets do.
Mhm.
Um, of course, if you want to add in the the 13 sign thing, then that also kind of gives it a different scope. But generally, that's your sun sign anyway, regardless of what system. Your moon sign is the more hidden and changeable aspects of you. The parts of you that are more deeper, that kind of filter in and out. The parts of you that take a little bit more getting to know
Mhm.
generally.
Mhm.
Um, your rising sign is basically the point where the sun was at the time of the day that
Mm.
you were born. So not where it was like in the season or the month, but that specific second, minute, hour. Um, really hour. Some
Okay.
people go that deep, but really it's hour by hour. The sun shifts in a 24-hour period
Mhm.
through each sign, and then it also does it on, 30-day, 30 something day, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but it's a whole nother conversation in and of itself. But that is the part of you that is more or less true to who you
Mhm.
are, to what your
Mhm.
sun and moon sign are. Because even
Mhm.
though your moon sign is changeable, it is also that more, inner setting of you that is it's only changeable by perspective, I would say, just like the moon, like it phases in and out.
Mhm.
Um but it's still, it's still there.
Mhm.
Your rising sign is more so changeable than anything, I feel like, because it's more so of an outward perception.
Mm.
It is what people will perceive of you, like, in the world, and
Right.
also how you tend to experience the world in general, like that perspective as well, which changes day by day, hour by hour.
Right. Okay,
So
can I tell you my sun, moon, and rising? And then
yeah.
you kinda tell me, like, what and also if you could kinda guess this, because you know.
Okay.
Anyway, but you already know my sun. So my sun is Taurus,
Yes.
my moon is in Scorpio, and my rising is Leo.
Okay. So God, now I feel like the dude in the fucking video.
She's judging me. She judging me.
Oh my God, no.
Ah.
Okay. Jeez. Now every time somebody asks me this, I'm gonna be like cringe. Okay. I'll do it. Yes.
And
But I've
again, this
learned
is
out.
just this is just like again from her perspective, doesn't
Right.
really, like
Right.
we already
Don't shoot me.
right,
Everybody has their own range of study.
right.
So Taurus, you said Taurus sun, Scorpio moon, Leo rising.
Mhm.
So you probably um come off or tend to experience the world in a sense that is more warm and excuse me, kind of all encompassing in a way. Like you seem to know in a how do I put it? I guess extroverted way. Then this is how you're perceived and can put out to the world. Um, how to be in certain spaces, how
Mhm.
to rule what you know. Um, on the inside, it's really not that different. Your motive's pretty generally fixed in general. So, you have your own general set of principles that you go by,
Mhm.
but how those principles filter out depends on the treatment, like, of the environment that you're in.
Mhm.
Um, the Especially with a Scorpio moon, you got other fixed signs. Ooh, I just realized this. So, with the Scorpio moon, now I sound like one of them head actors. Oh my god.
Ah,
It's fun though. This
it
is the part of me
is.
where
It
I
is
indulge because
fun.
it's just entertaining and it's like,
Yeah.
you paint it how you want it, whatever.
Right. Right.
So, um, basically, you, yeah, you really, really hold like tightly to your natural like principles based off of your own unique understanding of the world. You know, what is your own what do you call your own form of or wave of critical thought, how you
Mhm.
assert yourself, um what you like you have a very probably specific taste in things,
Mhm.
and it's more so about quality with you.
Mhm.
um what else can I say? Probably very got a strong stubborn streak as well, just headstrong in general,
Mhm.
but really depends on how you're feeling, like impressionably, as to how you really show, like, your headstrongness. Like, it
Mhm.
really might just depend on how welcoming or unwelcoming your
Mhm.
environment truly is. Whether you're just being, more laid back in the cut, or you like really need to like be out and show out or whatever. And that goes for
Mhm.
every one of those signs that you have in your what is called big three. They all have that tendency. um you may seem come off like you want to do that more often than you actually care to. You might not give a fuck sometimes as much as people think, and then in other cases you really, really care. People like, you don't care.
That's
It's
exciting.
like,
I love hearing. I love it's so exciting. It's so exciting. It is.
I know, right? And
Yeah.
especially it's so interesting being, like, I guess, an enthusiast in a way.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, instead of pessimistic about it, like, how could you
right,
even know that? Like, why would you how did you
right.
come up with that? Like, just take it as it is, man. Like
Hell
Ah,
yeah.
yeah.
No, for real. Cause it's like the more you question it, it's like, do you really want to know? That's
Right.
Do you really even want to know, or are you
Right.
just skeptical just for hell's, like, just for the hell of it? You know what I'm saying? Like, just to be devil's advocate or something, or you genuinely like want to know more? Because there's a difference. Like, how
Right.
far you get in understanding really depends on how much you really intended to
Mhm.
understand it in the first place. Like, what are you
Right.
trying to gain from this information?
Right.
Then, even then, that's a whole nother level of applying things too, because there's so many ways you can apply. Like, what am I trying to gain from this? Like, we
Yeah.
talk about, some people, it's like, political favor and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and having different type of power and control over their
Mhm.
lives or other people's lives even. For other
Mhm.
people, it's something as simple as investing.
Mhm.
For certain cultures or whatever, it is about, you know it's more attuned to what they go through spiritually, and
Mhm.
those, rites of passages and things like that.
Right.
What is seasonal in those ways?
Right.
So what to do and what not to do
Right.
within those seasons, like,
Mhm.
it really
Like
depends.
when to plant, when you need to take days of rest. Like it's
Right.
literally just so helpful
Yes.
for everything.
Like, come on, you know what I'm saying? And people else is like, oh, because it's a Roman idea, so it's all romanticized. And, well, I mean, sure, but where did that stuff come from?
Mhm. Mhm.
Where did all those ideas come from? Where do you think they just pulled that shit out of their ass?
Mhm.
That is inspired and borrowed information.
Right.
Like,
Right. Because we
hell, I
did
like
that back in
something
the day.
stolen.
Right.
Right.
You know
Like,
how they do.
come on, come on.
So
It didn't just come out. And if it did just come out of nowhere, there's a reason. That's the thing with humans. We gotta change. So there's a reason
Mhm.
that sparked that made people like, yeah, let's go with
Right,
that.
right, right, right. And like we said, like once you get into astrology and like if you're really interested, it takes you into so many other things like
So many.
numerology. You get into like your life path number, your north node, your south node, which is like
Man.
your past life, right? Like it tells you what you were possibly in your past life. Am I right?
Yeah,
Yeah, help me with that.
I have that's a whole little side conversation I've been wanting to have like publicly, but I'm gonna keep that on top. But
Okay.
like past lives, whatever. Um, it definitely your nose definitely show like I call it like your rate of fate.
Mm,
Which is like say if you're a car or whatever and you have to get from this point, like I hate having to use so many math problems when I actually hated math. But I loved all the other stuff like history and literature,
yeah.
kind of like astrology anyway.
Uh-huh.
Um it's like you got a vehicle, and
Mm,
in this instance, you're the vehicle, so you got to get from point A to point B at this miles per hour, whatever,
mhm,
before this or whatever happens.
mhm,
Um, that direction is what you can equate your nodes to. So the direction of which your sun where your sun your entire chart really was placed at, like this is where you could like it's like a slingshot, like
right.
putting all your what is it, um not kinetic energy, that's energy in motion, but all that momentum at one place and then launching it.
Mhm,
That direction of travel is your nodes, like that line of fate. One is your north, one is the south. The south is considered to show you more so what you have already grown in, what comes easily to you, where
mm,
you can tap into it or don't, you know what I'm saying,
mhm,
depending on other things. Some people advise you to do it, some people advise you not to.
right.
The north
What you need to
is
learn.
basically it
Mhm,
is like the polarized form of those lessons that you already kind of passed through, and like crystallizing it so that way you get past it
mhm,
and go to the next, I guess theoretically will be the the next point of fate,
mhm.
which could be a different degree or different sign. We're still discovering those things, I guess. But yeah,
Okay.
so you can look at your um yeah, your south node. I guess that's where the past life thing comes from. Because
Mhm,
like you've already been through it, you kind of sometimes it's irrational how you even know how to do it or have that understanding of experience. Like I never physically in my life was, I don't know, royalty or something like that. I've never
mhm,
had my own palace or whatever, whatever, whatever. But I so can relate. I know how to that shit would work, would work in my world. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
I know how to do things in a way that is very like chivalrous or whatever that
mhm,
makes me feel or royalty, whatever. But you may not have a actual interest in that. You just are good at it. You know that it's there. It's always been
mhm,
like in a back burner sense of where you've been,
mhm,
even if it hasn't literally been that. Sometimes it's
mm,
like that, and that's where people be like, well, that could be energy or information that has passed through, a whole nother lifetime for you.
mhm.
But like I said, I have my own conclusions on that
Right.
topic in general.
Right.
So we gonna do that there.
Right. So yeah, because I mean, the conversations, these it could go in so many different directions, and you can go down so many different, like you can get into so many different things. And again, it's as far as you want to go and as much as you want to believe.
Hmm.
And just because you don't believe it doesn't make it not true. But
Exactly.
Okay, one last question. So what
Mhm.
are we still in the time, like, as a whole, as a collective, in the age of Aquarius?
We're just getting to it.
We're just getting to it?
Yeah, that's of course if you're looking at the old 12 system. If you're considering
So,
um
okay, because 'cause you've been dropping these hints the whole time. Real quick, what is the 13? What you talking about with these 13? Because now you about to just
well,
confuse
just like when
everybody.
you had asked, like there was that one point in time, I don't know how many years ago. Actually, truthfully, it's happened
Mhm.
more than once. Within the past like century, I would say,
Mhm.
where it has come out like, oh, there's another sign. Oh,
Mm.
there's another sign.
Yeah.
That's why I said it's not nothing new. Like
Mhm.
people just choose to omit it.
Yeah.
The reason why it's been omitted is because of the how do I put this? The prevalence of the Gregorian calendar, the Julian calendar that we use. There's different calendars. That's why I say there's different systems because it depends
Mhm.
on what each culture and what area of, geographically you are that
Right.
applies certain information is going to apply to you.
Mhm.
Just like the plants. You're not going to find certain plants here in Virginia that you want to find over in fucking, I don't know, Wisconsin or something.
Right,
It's
right,
just not.
right.
It's not geographically the same. Same
Right.
thing with the information. So um the 13 signs is something that's always been there, but it hasn't necessarily been
It's not
considered or
mainstream yet.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it isn't convenient basically.
Yeah. Yeah, like, people
It's
done
just not as
already
convenient.
got yeah. It's not
It's
sellable, it don't make money.
uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
But I like to integrate both simply because like how we were saying, you know, the will how the willpower becomes like the driving force of what becomes true and not true in our world.
Mhm.
Um that because of that being still a split thing, there's
Mhm.
so many people out there if they're even um knowledgeable of anything astrologically. There's still
Mhm.
so many people who are split down the middle in the sense of even knowing that little fact itself.
Mhm.
Um, whether they've been studying astrology for years, or which I don't see how you could be really that truly into it and not know about it, but um, and then there's those who have been known and have always counted it in. So you have a kind of like
So it's
a
2 different it's
fight of
just
willpower, yeah.
yeah.
So you can't say it's not there,
Yeah.
obviously, literally, but you also can't say it fully applies because there's not as much driving force.
Right, not as many people believe.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's definitely computable. You can still get interpretations from it. There's people who base their practice,
Mhm.
their discipline in astrology just like is based on the 13 versus the 12 signs. But
Mhm.
12 signs is definitely more fitting because it's convenient to the calendar that we use generally, which is the main thing there in
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
conversation. The calendar.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, based on your perspective and what age that you believe that we're in now, what does that mean for us as a collective? Like, what are we all what's the energy right now?
Mm, we're I don't know if this is going to shake the table or not. We are because I like to um once I started finding out things like the 13th sign and stuff like that, I became
Mhm.
more focused on, again, like I said, connecting all dots and seeing where all this information intersects.
Mhm.
And the main thing that stands out for me is that we are in an age that is specifically unique because it has so many catalytic points in it. Like, you can really say, if you look back at recorded history, emphasis on recorded history, that is accessible, there's but so many sets of like general like event characteristics that happen within a time span.
Mhm.
that don't vary as much as the time that we have right now. You don't get so many different things going on at once. Like
Mm.
you might have in certain ages, the focus was more so on the water supply. The focus was
Mm.
more so on um how we were progressing physically, like
Mhm.
how the earth was moving, like the continents and stuff. There's
Mhm.
ages where that shit ain't that important. Like we
Right.
were more focused on like political matters and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and advancing our web stuff like that. We go through these phases historically. So right now we're in one of those times where all that shit applies at one time in a sense.
Mm.
So that comes with a lot of what I call whiplash. Basically,
Mhm.
like you're like, oh shit, oh shit,
Right, 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 right.
because it's a culmination point. It's like that point when you swing in. Excuse all my damn metaphors. It's the poet in me.
No, you
But
good.
like when you're swinging and you want to jump off the swing, but you're trying to time it perfectly, and it's
Uh-huh.
that point where you're about to jump. Like this is the one. That's the
Yeah.
point we're at. This is that jump. Like it don't
But
matter
you
what
real
you
you
call
like
it.
you real scared, but you know you gotta
Yes,
do it.
yes. Like
Oh,
you.
that was
Oh
a
my god,
good
I got
metaphor.
all
I like
this. I
that.
got all this momentum. I got all
Mhm.
this information. All these
Right,
experiences. All this crazy shit that happened. Now
right.
it's time to do this way or don't. Like, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? But it's
Mhm.
such a chaotic period for
Yeah.
that reason. Like, it don't matter if you call it the age of Pisces, the age of Aquarius.
Mhm.
But I would even say, uh, yeah, Eastern astrology has it better with that
Mhm.
interpretation. Can even go into like I don't want to say Indian astrology, but for lack of I can't my smart's not kicking in. But they call it the Kali
Is it the
Yuga.
Vedic? No, no, no. No.
Thank you. Oh
Oh,
my
that's it?
god.
I was like
The Kali Yuga of time is what we're entering, which is like where it's like, you know, evolution wise, we're at
Mhm.
make or break. It's make or break
Mhm.
with like everything that happens. There's either
Mhm.
going to make or break how well we progress, like
Mhm.
as how well I progress in this moment, how well I
Mhm.
progress in a year from now, how well I
Mhm.
progress in a year from now, thus how my family's gonna, you know what I'm saying? It
Right,
boils
right.
into every little thing is like do or die in a sense. That's the
Right.
Cali period. It's a little bit darker than what science fiction like
Mhm.
has
Mhm.
tried like made it out to be. They say it's fictional, but a lot of that shit is
Mhm.
actually true. So it is a dark age in a
Mhm.
sense, but
Mhm.
you know, the
I mean,
world,
but
our
darkness
galaxy
doesn't
is made like made
necessarily
from dark.
mean yeah, the
So
darkness doesn't is not a negative
exactly,
connotation. It just
exactly,
means things that were not brought to light are now
exactly.
yeah.
Literally, literally. Now it's time like it's either getting forced into that like ultimate darkness for like
Mhm.
for good,
Mhm.
whatever, because it
Mhm.
can't make it into whatever this next little jump off is, or
Mhm.
it's getting forced into a higher place or a basically more understanding
Right.
place or whatever what Christians would call the return of Christ, more
Right.
compassion and stuff
Right.
because of how catastrophic and just rare certain occurrences is where you're
Mhm.
forced. It's a
Mhm.
force as far as do or die.
Mhm.
That's the times we live in. I don't really got a name for it
Mhm.
personally as an
Mhm.
individual, but it's some crazy shit. That's what I call it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, and nothing else to say. It's just crazy, you know it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
very unique times. So, exciting times we in. Stay in the moment. Stay in the moment.
Right, right. I mean, I kind of talked about this on when I was doing a recap of 2020 because you know that year was just crazy for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I like when things I don't like when things are
There's
crazy,
your
but
Scorpio moon.
I just I
You're
don't know.
crazy. moon too, by the way.
Oh no, she knows my insides. Anyways.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it's just like I just like honesty, and I like when things are not fake, and I like
Mhm.
when and that's what is this time is forcing everybody to just be honest and real with themselves and everybody around them, because otherwise you know how people live, they just you know
Yes. Freaking yes. Like, it don't matter. That's one of those things that's a resounding fact right there, right now, honestly.
Right.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you're looking at it from an astrological point, looking
Mhm.
at it from a religious standpoint. No, no,
Right.
no. Regardless,
Right.
the math says you get your shit together now or
Mhm.
face some serious consequences. Like,
Right. Any way
period.
you look at it, right?
Period.
Whatever system you follow.
Yes, like
Yeah.
in every way possible, and not just in the material ways or superficial
Mhm.
ways, like in the
Mhm.
ways that matter really.
Right.
Like, get it together.
Get it together. Get it
All of you.
together.
All of you.
So start.
Definitely. I like when stuff gets a little chaotic too. Shit.
Some truth about to come out. Let's get it.
Yeah,
You
well,
know? Oh my goodness. Okay. So tell us, okay, so tell us about the readings that you do, and like
hmm
and people want to know like specifically their charts and stuff. Tell us what you offer with that.
So, oh man, once upon a time I even gave free natal chart readings, like
Mhm.
really in depth, because I was at a point where I thought I was gonna like really make that my profession.
Mm.
True, not to say that it's not in a sense, but like I said, I'm multifaceted, so it
Right.
is that, but it ain't that at the
Right, right,
same
right.
time.
Yeah.
So but the readings that I give are more so intuitive based. They come from my growth and understanding integrated with certain teachings that have been passed down through various traditions and cultures.
Mhm.
Um, so that's where the intuitive word comes from, and
Mhm.
then it's applied in a sense that uses tarot as a tool,
Mhm.
and sometimes astrology. And really, I like to integrate all systems. I might end up doing it again. I'm thinking about it since I
Okay.
have some time on my hands, but um
But right now you're not really
uh
doing.
um yeah, I've been doing just general like oracle intuitive readings with the cards,
Mhm.
just for time's sake
Right.
and quality of time. Excuse me. So I do that. I give tarot and oracle readings, depending on the situation and the conversation.
Mhm.
Just a general exchange, we might venture further into that. Generally
Mhm.
people are like one-stop shop or whatever, which is fine by me.
Mhm.
As long as you're taking heed to what you receive and what applies
Right.
to you, that's
Right.
really all that matters at the end of the day. No
Mhm.
matter if you think I'm wrong, I'm right, I'm stupid, or talented, or whatever the case may be. It's not
Mhm.
never about the messenger. It's always
Mhm.
about the message.
Right.
So I do offer those services. Whether you want to talk about your career, your relationships, your general direction, understanding of yourself, blah blah blah
Mhm.
blah.
Mhm.
I offer all those, and it's on my page. I have a current package right now that's just for now and throughout the summer.
Mhm.
Because I offer my stuff like more seasonally
Mhm.
intermittent. Um, because I do value those exchanges and information. I'm not one of those
Mhm.
people. I do not like to contribute to the degradation of
Right.
like
The-
esoteric info and
yeah.
stuff. I do my best to not be in that number. So yeah, it really depends on what you're trying to get done. I have the
Mhm.
general package, and then if you got some real shit, we can talk about whatever.
Mhm.
we can work that out. I used
And
to give full natal chart readings though. Shit
mhm.
was crazy. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
that's a lot of information. It's a lot. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Very
So
much.
where can they find you?
You can find me, just go to my Instagram, at my star soul, MASTARSOUL. It's probably the easiest route, of course,
Mhm.
unfortunately, these days. Um, excuse me. I have my link tree, which I will be updating
Mhm.
this week. As far as my booking page is on there, I gotta update my booking. But if you want to book anything, you can use those links, or you can just send me a message directly and we can
Mhm.
just go from there, because I like to make things simple, but I'm also very realistic about my time. So I'm
Right.
still human, you know what I'm saying? I'm
Right.
not full practice with this stuff
Right.
right now. So we
I
just
got
gotta
shit
meet in
to
the middle.
do. Right, right,
Right.
right.
We gotta
We all still living life. You know how
yes,
the hustle
yes,
goes.
absolutely. Yeah, yes,
um
ma'am.
and tell us, okay, so one last thing.
Hmm.
Um okay, so the message you would have to people who are skeptical or think that it doesn't matter, or
That's not like I
let
wrote something down for this.
them know. Let them know. Get the
I feel
book.
like I did, because I was definitely crying. I was like, man, there's a lot going on these days. How? Let me make sure I don't sound too crazy. Um, yeah, nah, we already went over that stuff. So
Okay.
finish your question.
Okay, okay. So, do you have a final message for skeptics, or no? Just if you want to get into it, get into it. If you don't.
I would say, because I'm like, I like to play devil's advocate as well, but also I'm obviously still an enthusiast.
Mhm.
So with that, I just say, even same information goes when I have my sessions.
Mhm.
Follow your own gut.
Right.
Go with your first instinct. Even
Right.
if you're reading something that's allegedly about yourself, whatever.
Mhm.
Remember, if it don't apply, let it fly.
Right.
Like seriously, if it doesn't, that's just the power that we hold within our imagination. So if you can unite your imagination with your willpower,
Mhm.
anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Not to be like a teacher, but seriously.
Yeah.
So therefore, when it comes to that information, like if it don't apply, let it fly. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you don't like people to talk about it, or whatever, make that a hard boundary. Like,
Mhm.
I'm actually not that interested. Can we do something else? Can we talk about
Mhm.
something else?
Mhm.
Whatever.
Mhm.
But if it's to a point, because I feel like people, I don't know, like low key be
What?
feeling bullied about it, which is weird.
Oh, because they're like,
Um,
oh, you're not into it. How could you not be?
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's weird. You know what I'm saying?
Uh huh.
But know that that's deeper than astrology. When you meet those people, like it's
Yeah.
not just, that's not the astrology talking. Let's
Right.
put it that way.
Right. Right. Don't
It's
let
not
them
the
speak for
astrology talking.
astrology. Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Always the message, not the messenger. If it don't
Mhm.
apply, let it fly.
Mhm.
Do what works for you. Get it where you fit it. Because that's all this is about. That's all this shit is
Right.
about.
Right.
That's all that it was ever used for. Get in where you fit in.
Mhm.
This is what happens. This is what that shit usually means for us. Do with that information what you need to
Right.
do.
Do what you
Like,
will. Do what you will. Cause I ain't gonna, like, there have been many times they done said something about my sign or whatever. And I feel like, you know what? I feel that. And then other times where I'm like, nah, that ain't about me. They must be talking about
right?
somebody else. Cause
Heck yeah. There's definitely been a few days where I'll pick up my phone and I'll look at my horoscope and I'm like, yeah, no,
no.
no, I don't feel that way. So you mean to me, I
Right.
feel like I'm supposed to feel like shit today,
Right.
but I don't.
Right.
So that's a little troubling.
Right. And
That's
if
a
you
little
don't,
troubling.
yeah, I can understand, like, if you don't have a strong mindset, how it can, like, get you, because you'll, like,
Hmm.
start believing that, and if you start believing that, then it's gonna be true. So
Right, exactly. That's where I understand the danger, like, where people try to bring, like, you shouldn't probably play around with that information,
yeah.
for sure. But at the same time, that's where I like to call in my girl who natural selection, natural selection, natural selection. Like,
You're not
if it
strong enough.
ain't do or die, then it's natural selection. Like whatever you were predisposed to becoming, to doing, to accepting, with all that natural selection, boo boo.
Mm,
Some of them people just
they just
their minds aren't there,
yeah.
so they don't have that autonomy to be like, that actually doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
It's natural selection. You can't force that. You can't teach certain things. You just can't force to teach. So you can't really
True.
get mad at nobody. For real, for real.
Yeah.
But you can go your own way.
Yeah. Yes. And listen, we've been talking enough about astrology, okay? So
I
y'all
love
get yes, it's so it's just interesting and it's just
yeah.
like when you really get into it, like it just helps you understand yourself better and that's the whole point of like anything
Mhm.
in life. So, yeah.
If you don't understand, you don't know nothing.
Okay. So, thank you, Star, for this. Thank you
Thank
for coming
you.
up here. And we got
Yeah.
ended there.
Thank you.
Yes. And one last thing, please remember that your refuge is in your self healing. So heal yourself to find your refuge. Okay. Peace.
Okay. Ashe. Let's get it. Let's get You heard her. You heard her. I love that.